In today's Black Clover video we talk about why and how Lucifero might use Liebe to open the remaining Clifford gates, since Yami and William are no longer used for the Clifford ritual. Also, only a small percentage of the people who watch our videos are actually subscribed, so if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video, let's go! This isn't really a Black Clover Chapter 317 review, but rather a deeper analysis with things I wouldn't normally mention in the main review, simply because it would either drift too much into the theory niche, or because I just forgot to mention it. If you want us to do an analysis like this more often on Sunday, make sure to engage with this video, like and comment, so we can see that you really want us to do this more often. And before we get started, let's talk very briefly about Black Clover Jump Asta 2022. To be honest, nothing really interesting happened, but at least the game was announced and we saw a new movie poster featuring Yuno, as well as the new Black Clover volume cover. Both can be downloaded on my Twitter in high quality. We also have a message from Yuki Tabata. You can find the entire message on my Twitter as well. Feel free to follow me, I will put the link to my Twitter in the comments. However, one sentence was really fascinating. Let me just read my tweet. Black Clover author Yuki Tabata said, "The main story is about to be moving forward at a fast pace." I wonder what he meant by that. Will it get crazier, or will Shonen Jump forces Black Clover to conclude earlier than initially planned? Hashtag Black Clover, greatness until the end. Let me know in the comments what you think Tabata meant. Last thing before we start, as always, the next Black Clover theory is on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your time zone. I will show the exact release time here. Alternatively, you can just activate the notification bell. But now, let's start the deeper analysis of Black Clover Chapter 317. The chapter name is Change, and could indicate a change in events. The humans will no longer have the upper hand and the devils will rise, which fits the narrative at the end of the chapter, which says that a war will break out. The war between humans, elves and even dwarfs versus the devils. The first interesting thing to mention happens on the very first page. The narrative text says, "The behemoth disintegrates." The interesting thing is that in the fan translation the term behemoth was used to describe this monster that Lucifero used to manifest himself. In the official translation this part was cut out completely. But if we look at the Japanese original, we can actually see this part. Behemoth is a beast from the biblical books and is a form of the primeval chaos monster created by God at the beginning of creation. This monster is associated with the other two primeval chaos monsters, Leviathan and Ziz, but metaphorically this name is used for any extremely large and powerful being, so it's not unlikely that Tabata just wanted to spice up the chapter with his typical demonological seasoning, which could explain why it wasn't mentioned in the official translation. However, it is still worth considering that it might actually have a deeper meaning. So there are three primeval monsters that are in some way related in demonology and some other religious and mythical writings. Behemoth is the male land monster and could possibly have been used by Lucifero and Black Clover to manifest. Ziz is the male sky monster, and since Beelzebub is a male and even referred to as the Lord of the Flies, literally depicted as a giant fly in demonology, it will be a perfect match. That would leave only Leviathan, which is a female sea monster. This would mean that the third ruler of the underworld might be a female devil, and if the three rulers of the underworld are based on the evil trinity Lucifer, Beelzebub and Astaroth, then that would fit even better, since Astaroth is often associated with the female being Astarte. Since Lucifero used Behemoth for his manifestation, it is to assume that the other two rulers can also use the other primeval monsters to manifest themselves. And finally, it is often described that Behemoth and Leviathan fight with each other when they meet. If Behemoth represents Lucifero and Leviathan represents the Time Devil, then that could mean that the Time Devil may not be evil at all, which may be why we haven't seen the Time Devil so far. It would also fit very well with Astaroth, who is described as not being evil even though he is one of the highest devils. Because as Lysita said, not all devils are evil just because they are a devil, and a non-evil ruler of the underworld would definitely fit with the Julius Novachrono Time Devil theory, not so much with the Julius 4th Socrates theory. Unless both theories are connected. Maybe Julius really manipulated his own memories using Mark's magic to make a contract with the time devil Astaroth, because demonology describes Astaroth as refusing to make a contract with anyone who summons him with evil intentions. So if the 4th Socrates sibling could make a contract with Astaroth because he has evil intentions, it would explain the reason for our theory of why Julius could have voluntarily erased his own memory with the help of Mark's, who then replaced his memory with a good cult ideology of Julius in order to trick Astaroth into making a contract only for him to be reborn later in his undying body, forcing Astaroth to have a contract with an evil person, which Astaroth would not have done otherwise. You can find a link to this theory in the comments. Feel free to check it out after you finish this video. It's really a very interesting theory. Speaking of rebirth in undying bodies, we have assumed that this rebirth could happen with the 4 cocoons that grew from the Clifford ritual. However, we did not see the 4 cocoons after Asta cut Behemoth. Either the 4 cocoons were destroyed, which would be ridiculous, or whatever was in the cocoons has already hatched and is now somewhere in the Spade Kingdom. Aside from the 4 Socrates siblings, there are several possibilities as to who might have hatched from these cocoons. A very interesting idea would be the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It is said that when Lucifer rises, he will summon the 4 horsemen. Once released, they have the task of causing as much chaos on Earth as possible. And the last 2 possibilities I see are either the rebirth of 4 extremely powerful warriors because the devils possessed their souls. Perhaps these 4 had a devil contract when they were alive. In devil contracts, it is common for devils to serve people while they are alive, but after death, the souls belong to the devils forever. Maybe 4 devils will be able to use these undying bodies to manifest themselves, using 4 souls they have possessed in the past. And the last possibility is that these 4 cocoons either manifested the next 4 supreme devils after the second supreme devil, so all remaining devils accept the last gate that separates the 3 rulers of the underworld from the other devils. Or these 4 cocoons simply contained all remaining devils up to Lucifugos, if Lucifugos could possibly have some other purpose that is still unknown to us. Then of course we see the second supreme devil in much better quality than in the leaks. Just as we assumed, he doesn't have wings, and it looks like he really does have a cape, making the likelihood of him being Adramelech pretty high. If you want to know more about Adramelech, you can watch our last video. I will put the link to the video in the comments as well. He mentions that Lucifero's manifestation is halfway through, so what can we expect next? Logically, the Clifford ritual has been cancelled, because Asta has freed Yami and William, and thus the sources of the ritual can no longer affect the Clifford tree to be further created. However, the question is whether Yami and William are really still needed for the ritual. If it's literally an unavoidable requirement without any other exception, then there's no other option but for Yami and William to be captured immediately, or the ritual can go on without them. Maybe because he can extract their souls, or other devils could possess them due to the connection to the Clifford. One thing is for sure, it is very unlikely that the gates will be open at the same time anytime soon, because what is the point of Lucifero manifesting halfway through when he has a method of opening all the gates immediately? So that is out of the question. The reason why Lucifero has only half his power at the moment is obviously to show how up everyone will be when Lucifero gains his full power. So how will Lucifero be able to open the remaining gates if not with Yami and William? And one likely way is with the help of Liebe. We know that the foundation for this plot was already late in the past when we saw Lucifero kill Lysita. Lucifero said that one day he would return and get Liebe so he could use him to bring his real body into the human world. Now Lucifero has manifested 50% and the ritual has been cancelled. So the devils have to find another way to open the remaining gates. And this is where Liebe comes in, as originally planned by Lucifero. Lucifero knows that Liebe was able to pass through the first gate of the underworld unharmed, and he now knows what magical ability Liebe has. Back then he only wondered why he could live in the human world without having a contract with a human, but now he literally knows the potential of anti-magic. Obviously the gates to the underworld were made by someone, either god, angels, or another sacred race, maybe even by humans, elves, or dwarfs. The point is that a very powerful spell has sealed and imprisoned the devils with these gates, which could possibly be destroyed with anti-magic. The question is whether Liebe or Lucifero using Liebe could do the same thing from the human world now that the Clifford tree is somewhat advanced. We know that the tree has already been created, and since Yami has dyed the tree black with dark magic, its roots have already reached the underworld. So maybe now the process can continue under certain other conditions. Morris has proven that the ritual can be changed, so it's not unlikely that anti-magic could even be the solution to open the remaining gates. Taking Liebe away sounds impossible because Asta simply needs Liebe unless there's some kind of power system in Black Clover that doesn't use magic. Perhaps something from the land of the rising sun, and perhaps something to do with key control and physical power. But another kidnapping would be a bit repetitive. Then there would be the possibility that Liebe could be used to open all the gates immediately, which again will contradict the principle that Lucifero only manifested halfway through. This is the same problem with the possibility of Lucifero using Yami and William to open the remaining gates immediately. It just doesn't make sense. unless it's a bait. So to conclude the possibilities, based on the fact that Lucifero has only manifested halfway, we can assume that the remaining gates will not be opened anytime soon, unless Tabata is just trying to bait us. Remember that he said that the story will move forward faster from now on, but if it is not a bait and the gates will open either slowly or all at the same time but in the late future, we can assume that no one will be captured, but Lucifero will find a way to either extract something from certain people, for example the soul or magic, to keep the ritual going, or find a whole other method how the remaining devils from the underworld can manifest. For example, Lucifero starts forcing people to be possessed by devils, and so on. There are certainly many other possibilities. And that's it for this Black Clover chapter analysis. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course, subscribe for even more content in the future. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day or evening, and see you next time here on Yonami. Bye.